And there you go. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So welcome everyone to our decorating our art journal. So let me just go through. This was the first one I did. And I did it on a sidekick. So it was a smaller surface. This was a black one. So just to show you that you can change the colored planners. It doesn't have to be the canvas. This canvas is the new one. It is almost like a creamy color. And you'll notice if you did grab this one, you'll notice the finish is a little bit different from all the other ones. But it's not to say that you can't decorate anything. So this was a black canvas that I changed it up. This one I used some stamping, lots of different colored paste. I did some wax on top of it, but you can see it was first one. I learned some techniques over the way, along the way. Let's see. One thing I did forget was I could probably use the boxes. So one thing I learned from watching the videos is that because you are opening the album to a flat surface, these rings do get in the way. So watching some of the videos, they had either like a photo frame or a piece of wood, two pieces where you could, hopefully this will work. Let me move stuff out of the way. Where you could use it as your table and place your rings in between. So then you have that nice surface to work on. So that was a really good idea. So now you have this surface. So I am going to be using this canvas one. It is the A5 planner. The first thing you want to do is put gesso on. Gesso comes in either white or black, depending on what you want on your bottom layer. This one we started with white. If you're not familiar with gesso, what gesso is, it's a primer. So it's almost like an acrylic paint, but a thinner base. And what you do with the gesso is that you want to put it as your foundation on any surface, whether, well, we're doing it on our planner, but if you're working on a canvas or anything like that, it's that way. Any other products that you use on top of the gesso, it will sit on top of the gesso. If you didn't put a primer down on your surface, anything that you use, for example, acrylic paint or oil paint, it will soak through your canvas. So it's good to put a foundation on it first. So that way everything will sit on top of the surface and it won't go into the material. Gesso, as far as I know, comes with white and black. And I just found out it also has a clear gesso. Tonight I will be using white. So one of the other examples I will show later on, I do use the black one. What you want to do is I put usually two coats. So you want to put one coat down, let it dry and put another one. Just because it takes a while to dry, what I did was I already have one that's already prepped with the gesso. Oops, let me move that out of the way so you don't see that flying. And then I also learned a tip. It was really hard for me to take out the elastic from the sidekick, but with the bigger ones, it was quite easy. So if you lift your binder rings up, you have a gap where you can pull that elastic out. And what you want to do with this elastic is that, let's see if I can show you this one. It's hard to see, but the elastic lies flat. I'm not sure if you can see that, lies flat like that. You need to pull it out and then in a way fiddle with it so you can hold it upwards and slide it through the back hole. I promise you the bigger one was easier to take out. The sidekick I couldn't. So you can tell that my sidekick ones are little muck up here. I couldn't take it out, so I had to paint around it. If you find it too fiddly, you could just leave it on and then, eventually because of this strap, the paint will start coming off it. But tonight I did remove it. And I just have to remember how the elastic goes when it comes to putting it around my planner. So here is a blank canvas with the magic of our video. I have this one, whoops, primed and ready to go. And you know what I'll do? Here, let me show you what I do with the gesso, and then I'll leave this to dry and I'll bring the other one in to work on. So let's open that up. For the gesso, I like to use a bigger brush, one of this size. I think this is about 1 inch, or anything bigger. It's just faster to spread. If you started putting gesso with a small paintbrush, you will be there for a very, very long time. And if you were like me, you probably want to speed up the process because you want to start working on it. My gesso is kind of empty. Oops, it's squirting. So make sure when you squeeze your bottles, if you have gesso, the ones we have at the store are the tube ones, and I find that they get air in it. So make sure you push it down on the side or you'll get it all over your project. If you have a jar one, that's awesome, because then you don't have to worry about it burping out on your surface. So here I am using a big brush. One thing that you could do to protect these holes, I didn't bring it, I forgot. Let me see if Sherry does, is putting, oh, maybe I could take this one. So what I did here was I just put washi tape to cover those holes. So just in case you put too much tape down, it doesn't get into your holes. So let me add some more. Give me a second.
So sorry about Herman. He is brilliant.
And let me do that. So I'm running out of gesso. I do have another, oops. And it's up to you if you want to go over those little screws there. I found it was just easier to go over than try to go around it. I think this one's empty. Let me see if this one. So you could tell this does take a while because you want to put a nice layer. Oops, I got my box. Thank you now. So here I am. The thinner your layer is, the faster it will dry, and then you can go a second time on top if you want it thicker, depending on the design. So for tonight's design, I do want a little bit of that canvas color, that creamy color to show through. So I'm going to do a thin coat, but make sure you get those edges. And if you don't want your paint to go over to the other side, I do say washi tape the inside. It just protects it more. Oh, I guess I need to buy another gesso. So let me see how much of this I can do. My white gesso is going. Shape this down. Of course, right? I'm like out of just white gesso. Okay. So make sure I spread that evenly. You could also use your heat gun to dry the surface. Okay, now it's like toothpaste time. I gotta really squeeze it out there. And then to the side of me, I do have a pan with water. So you can soak your paintbrush. So now I have to spread the paint. Oops, got a chunk here. But just be careful with these little parts here. Make sure you get the edges, because depending on your design, you might go all the way to the end. But here I am. And welcome to everyone that's joining us now. I am just priming the planner with gesso. That way I can add stuff on top. So there. So just spreading this around. Make sure. And don't worry if you miss a spot. I found that with the amount of things I covered on top, I couldn't even see if I skipped a spot or not. So here is a thin layer. And the one thing you also want to do is make sure you do your little strap as well. So I did one of my planners wrong, and I'll show you later. I forgot that this elastic has to be on the outside of the planner. The way it looks like, I think all my planners, the elastic is, this part shows on the outside like this. But for some reason, one of my planners, I have in the inside. So I guess it really doesn't matter. So just paint the side that you like. And I'm just painting it too, just in case you want to add your stenciling on it, or if you want to stamp something on it. Stamping on it, I found was difficult because of the way the elastic is. I couldn't get a smooth one, but I did put some gold wax on one of them. So letting this air dry to the side, oopsies, and just wiping off my brush so I don't waste all that gesso. So let me wipe this down. So let me move this out of the way, and I'll take the one that is already dried. Swatching my paintbrush. Okay. Good thing is to have lots of paper towel, so that way you can clean off your brushes. I have baby wipes, paper towels, and now let's start the fun. So depending on the design, that's where all my gesso went on the box. I dirtied my box. Okay. Let's put that in here. So think of the design you want. Make sure that Elizabeth's sign is facing you, so that way your planner is not upside down when you start building on it. So all of the planners have her logo etched in on the back side. So when you put it down, make sure it's facing you, because the worst thing is having it upside down and then all your pockets are upside down. So make sure that's facing you. And then we'll start. So one thing I like to do is make sure it's dry. So this one for sure is dry. And you can start with your layers. I like to start off with some just random stamping. I took different different sets that I have at home. So, and I just do random ones. And it's really hard to see, but I have some random words. I have some random circles. I know it's really hard because I added so much layers, but there's a random circle there, some random circles here, lots of words. And that's what I like to start off with and build off. So the best thing to use on, if you work with mixed media, is you want an archival ink. And this is an ink that will stay on the surface on any mediums that you use. I will show you one of my examples. One of my examples, I totally forgot. I wanted this gray, bluish gray tone for my birch trees. And of course I use Gina K's dye-based ink. And oh my goodness, it was a mess at the end, especially when I put the sealer on, everything started to smudge, but I'll show you how I fix that up. So you really want an archival ink. And I just do random stamping. Oops, that didn't go down, but it's okay. And some of it won't show up, but I'm okay with that because it's just background. Probably won't look like this in the end. More on this side. Oops. So I do recommend having a harder surface. These boxes are flimsy, so it's not getting a good impression, but that's okay. If you use archival ink on your stamp sets, you are going to get staining. It's really noticeable and you will see it. So for example, this is the green one. it will stain your stamp set, but it doesn't mean your stamps are damaged. So you will get that because of the way the formulation of the archival ink is made. Oops, why did I put that away? So let's do some more backgrounds. I like to pick different sizes, and I love using word stamps. Even though you can't read it, I just love the way it looks like in the background. And I'm just going to smush this hard. That's probably upside down because I can't even tell with this font which side is right and which side is wrong. But just doing random ones. If you are doing stamping, make sure you turn the orientation of your stamps. I'm doing some cutoffs. So here I just made it go off the page. Here I'll go. And the middle I found was the hardest because of the ring. So here I need to make sure you just push it down just to get that impression. So this planner, if you looked at the items I'm using, will be a holiday one. It's going to hold all the pages that we're doing in our TN clubs. So this is what this planner will be for. So the colors I picked were like fired brick red or rustic wilderness green. Let's see, just want to make sure I have stamping. Okay, I think that's good. We can always go back to wipe off. And then I am going to do some rings. I'm using black, but you could use different colors. I feel like the black will turn into gray as we start building on it. And then when I come to my stencils, I will be using the red and green to pull some colors. So I'm just layering. And yes, it does look like a hot mess. And you're probably saying, oh my goodness, what is she doing to her canvas? But in the end, you won't notice half of what's on the base. Just like the purple album I showed, you can't even tell that I stamped on it. Oh, am I getting a phone call? Yes, I am. Can everyone still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. You know, when you tell your parents that you're teaching, they like to call you. So I can hear my phone ringing. So I think that is good to go. And
Darlene, can I ask you a question?
of course.
You mentioned that you should use archival ink. What about distressed inks?
So I found it really depends what you're using, because distress reacts with anything liquid, so water, or if you're putting a sealer on top, I found that it's smudged.
Okay.
So you have to be really careful of when you're using it, because I did use, I was doing birch trees and I used the re-inker in my paste. And when I put the sealant on it, like the varnish, it smeared it all over the place. So I had to go on top of it. Oh. So you could use it, but you have to, if you're not going to put the sealant, then you're okay. But once you put the seal, and basically what this seal is just to protect it from like oils, or it makes it waterproof, like if it's indoor or outdoor. And it just keeps it in place, because I noticed when I started using the napkin and the rub-ons, because you're folding your planner so many times, it started cracking. But when I put the varnish on top of it, it protected it, and you don't see that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I will use a little bit of the re-inker, and you'll notice it a little bit that it will smudge.
Okay.
Whereas the archival ink, you don't get that. So once you put it on, it won't smear into any other products that you're using.
Okay.
Okay, so next thing I want to do is let's add some rub-on. So you don't have to add rub-ons, but I like it because it gives it a little bit of detail. So I picked, so I'm using 49 and Market rub-ons. And what I like about it is that it also has words and it also has the music notes. So and I just cut it. I wanted just the music notes, but not the actual instruments. So I'm going around. And I was very surprised how easily these rub-ons went on.
I see another question here.
Yes.
About, can you use black Versamark?
I didn't try. I'm thinking you should be able to, but because it's a pigment ink, I think you have to let it dry. Because you can use Versamark, like the embossing one, but you just let it dry. So I think you can still use that. Just let it air dry. Okay. It's just water-based ones, and the distress ones I had problems because they're reactive to water.
Okay.
So let's add a rub-on. I hope I'm on screen here, and the tool. And I'm just scraping the rub-on as part of the background. Some of it will peek through and some of it won't. But I like how you can use different items on the surface. So here I am just testing, lifting it up so I know where I didn't rub enough. The nice thing about this canvas color is that everything just kind of blends in, so you can't even see the outlines of it. So here, that one's at the bottom. Let's do this one closer to the top here. And as you can see, I am overlapping the rub-ons on the stamp images because you want it to blend in and not be on its own. So here, rubbing it on. Just, oh, I missed that corner. So I'm just lifting it little by little to see if I missed any spots that didn't get rubbed on. Just to give you a close up, it just looks like it was part of that canvas. Goes through. Let's see. Some more. With this one, I went more of the vintage look. So my stamps and my stencil, as well as my rub-ons, are more of that vintage look to it. Here, let's see. Just one little part here. Like I'm creating my own napkin. So this set here has little words that looks like a newspaper that got torn. I'm going to use some of that. And if you have rub-on words, those are perfect to use as well. And I'll show you one that I used a rub-on as my planner name. Scratching these rub-ons on. I think I'm going to add, just trying to balance it out. put one in this corner here. Right to it near the spine here. So I'm putting all the flat things first, so that way the paste will go last because it takes more time to dry. Okay, I think I am okay with that. Now let's do some stenciling. Trying to see. I think I'm going to go. I'm trying to see which one I want to do first. Actually, let's use, where's my white paste? So you can either use paste or acrylic paint. And I'm going to mix some Stormy Sky. So here is a distress ink just to change up my paste color. Let's close that. Let me get a Ziploc bag so I can mix my paint color. So if you have a paint tray, this is good, but I forgot that one. I'm going to make my own paste color. So I'm just using a white paste. You could use acrylic paint as well. Just taking, start the piece. My piece is cold.
What paste are you using, Darlene?
This is, I think Lawn Fawn, the Lawn Fawn white. I wanted a white paste. The purple one here, I use the pearl white from TCW, but I really didn't want that pearl look for this one because the green one will have that shine to it. So I'm using just a plain white. And let me shake this re-inker, make sure I'm far away from my project. And I'm going to put, let's see if that works. Paste is cold. Add a little bit more white because I wanted a lighter color. Like it looks like cream I have here. And let's mix that. So I'm just mixing that white paint because I do want a little bit of the blue. So as I said earlier, I wanted to go with my Holiday Wishes paper line that we're using in our TN club. So just want a little bit of that blue, hint of blue. Let's do that. make sure my paintbrush is dry. I'm going to dry brush. So what dry brush is, that means that your paintbrush is dry and not wet. And we're just going to sweep it on top. That one's wet. Let me get my other one. And I'm going to go lightly. Just put a little bit of that paint on your paintbrush. And we're going to sweep on top. So you could use acrylic paint, white. You could use paste. But I wanted my planner just to have a tint of blue. For painting a wall here. And if you had the a paintbrush that has the harder bristles, those are really good for dry painting. I have a really soft one here, so I really have to drag my paintbrush across. So I'm just going back and forth. So some parts will have darker blue, some will have a lighter finish. And don't forget the holes. So I always rush, so then it always goes through. So it's good to have a pokey tool where you could just scrape those holes. Even with the washi tape below it, it still goes on the other side. I can see why they say be very slow when you do that part. So here I am just adding a tint of that blue. Look, Heather, it's your blue album. So you could put more, you could put less. We can always go back. So let me just do the edges. So I go in a left and right motion, just so my streaks are consistent. If you want it more abstract and you don't mind going up and down, you can always add that like checkered look. But I'm just going back and forth. And let's see, maybe here needs a little bit of blue. That's good. So, and then we can't forget our belly band there, our closure, because we want it to have the same color. So now where did I put? Okay. Let me take our little band here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Let's just push this to the side. And this is a tricky part, is trying to get that blue, because we want it to match. And I left it blank. I didn't really put stenciling in any of my other ones. I found it difficult because of that band in the way. But a rub-on may work if you want a word or a design. Let me flip it this way. So that way it has that tint of blue as well. And we can put more on it after. So let me wash my. Okay, let's drop my paintbrush. It's good to have multiple ones so that way you can do different things at the same time. Let's bring this back in. I'm going to keep this aside because we might come back to it and use it at the end. So let me just close that Ziploc. That out. Let me get my heat tool and let's dry it because I can see it's still wet. So I'm using just the low heat tool from Tim Holtz. You are welcome to use the embossing one. It is a higher heat, so just be very careful, especially if you're using paste. If it will start bubbling or it might scorch your paste. Let's try that. The nice thing about dry brushing is that it's faster to dry. Oh, that's wet there. Just going to spread that. I have it's very thick here, so it's not drying as fast. Okay. Now let's go and do some stenciling. Depending on what you want to do for your stenciling. And, okay, I'll do the little holly leaves here. So I do two kinds of stenciling. I do one with ink and then I do one with paste. It's just a preference. You don't need to do it. But for this one, I will do a little bit with inking and a little bit with stencil. So I'm using the Rustic Wilderness Archival ink and a sponge dropper, and I'm just really pushing really hard in those spots so the ink will transfer. It does have little berries. I just colored the whole thing green. I don't think it'll be very difficult to mask those leaves just for the berries. So everything is green. So once again, the archival does stain, so your stencils will stain in color as well. As long as you give it a good wash, you can use it on anything else. Just making sure there's leaves everywhere. And I'm really just pushing that ink through the stencil. I tried using a blending brush. It doesn't turn out as nice as using just a dauber and just pushing really hard in those stencil holes, your design. Let's do some off here. Mm. Don't forget the back side. I'm just turning my stencil around so my hollies will have different directions on here. This one, because the ink went through. And some over here. It does take a lot of time, lots of layers, but the end result is nice. So let's say you're doing it and then you look at it and you're not happy with it. The best thing to do, just like any projects that we do, is walk away from it and then come back. Because sometimes once everything dries, the look does come out to be a little bit different. And let's say you're still not happy with it because the ink didn't work or your stenciling messed up. It will just make your planner thicker, but you can always put another coat of gesso and start back at the beginning. But it will make it really thick. If not, I'll show you what I did because one of them didn't turn out the way I wanted. How that looks like. So maybe just a couple right in the center here. I think I'm okay with that. Let me wipe my so the next thing I wanted to do was add some paste. But I also want to okay. Let's add some of this first. So this is from Elizabeth Craft's new stencils. They're back in stock, but one of my favorite stencil sets. And here is that little diamond, but it's missing some pieces. I'm just going to put a little bit of diamonds all over. Where's my tool? Going to use a scraper for this. A palette knife is good too, but I find that I couldn't get through the holes properly. So I'm using TCW's Fern, one of my favorite greens. And I'm just mixing it up in this. The one thing is the scraper is super big that it doesn't fit in the container. So now let me pick and choose where I want the stencil. So it is whimsical. Some of the diamonds won't be full, but I'm going to do it the same way where I want some on, some off. And I'll show you how I fix my boo-boos after. So let me turn this upside down so I can get a different pattern. And I found the scraper just easier to go through those little corners that you can't reach. And do one right here. Oops, hope I didn't get that on the camera. And let's do a little bit here. So I find this is the trickiest because it goes through those biter holes and sometimes you get a guck of paste or paint through those holes. So I got to make sure that I wipe it clean. Maybe I'll do, let's see here. And it's one of those that I don't make it perfect. You just want at least some of those diamonds covered because I will add on top of it. So let me put this in my tray of water with soap. And I am going to save the paste. And wipe. So I do go through lots of tissue when you do this. It's like I need like invest in like wipes and paper towels. Okay. Make sure everything is closed. Palette knife for the next color. So making sure my scraper is clean because I will be doing red after and I don't want the green to transfer. Make sure my hands are clean. So we need this to dry. Oops. See right here, got it in the gut, the holes. So let me clean that first. That's the only thing is you forget about these holes and then you push too hard and everything goes inside. So I'm using my pokey tool and I'm just trying to slowly go around and take as much as I can around that hole. It'll just make your inside a little bit messy, but I couldn't figure out a way to not be messy besides not putting anything in those areas. So personal choice, but it's okay. The cover's worth it, but I'm just scraping off the extras. Hopefully not too much went underneath, and you can always paint the inside if you're not happy with all the yuckies. Okay, let's try this. It's the dry time that takes a while. But hopefully if you put a thin layer, it will dry faster. It's taking a while. So let's see. I could tell that some spots will take a while because it's much thicker. And then I'll just let it air dry a little bit. And then I wanted to put some poinsettias in random spots as well. But I found with, I tried the crimson, it was too bright for me. It was a really bright red. So I think I am going to make my own. So I'm using fire brick. And I am going to use the light and fluffy paste. Just wanted to show you a different kind of paste that does the same thing. So the first one I did with Lawn Fawn. This is the TCW paste. It's just like what it says. It's really fluffy. I need another, let's see. I'm going to take this packaging to mix. When you have no no paint tray, these packaging comes in handy. Let me move this down a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just take a little bit of the paste. This one looks like whipped cream to me. I love how it comes out. Just like the name, it's light and fluffy. And let's put a few drops. Let's try one. And come on, one more. There. Let's see what that looks like. And it's like we're doing cake decorating here. Not as bright red. I think this one will be better. Make sure. And the thing is, you want to make sure it's dry before you put something else on. So this side is fine. This side needs a little bit more. And I know the top one here probably needs. Oh, I know what. I put the stencil on top of the what's it called? The screw. So there's a chunk of paste there. Screw. Okay, well, the top still needs time to dry. I'll work around it. So I wanted to bring in some of these poinsettias just around, make it more festive. And I'll show you one that isn't festive after. And what I did with this one is I wanted a light. I didn't really want to use the spreader. So I used a paintbrush. Hold on, my brush is hard. And I'm going to just do it on top of the stencil, like dry brush. We want to make sure that covers. So I'm dry brushing the stencil. Maybe here. So with dry brushing, it's going to be more flat. When you use it with a paste spreader or a palette knife, you are going to get the nice texture of it and have the raised components of it. So with my purple album, I did it with a palette knife, but here I just wanted to add some dry brushing. Make sure I don't smudge. And it just gives it a different texture to it. So I'm just using my paintbrush, going through this stencil, still making sure I'm covering all the holes so at least the flowers do look like something and not a blob. But, and with dry brushing, it dries quicker because of the thin layer. Let's do it here. And I'm doing in random spots. Putting a thin layer so my design underneath will still show. I want to make sure it's dry before I go on top. Let's do dry brushing here, but let's mix it up. Let's do some dry and some with the paste. With the paste spreader, I mean. I wonder if using the dauber will be easier to get through these holes. So here. Let's do. Trying to figure out which corner. So here. Let me wipe this down and I'll use some of that paste and actually do it raised. Let's see. Let's put it there. Okay. Let me dry this. So you want to make sure it's dry or everything's going to smear. Okay, let's use some of that paste. I need something here. Let's use, I'm going to use my palette knife because then I can aim where I'm going. Let's see. So hard because you don't want to put washi tape down, so you have to make sure that you're not getting in other spots. There's that one. Let's do one here. Make sure I don't go off the stencil. do this big one here. So it's really fun just to play, finding things that you have in your stash. Because this was festive, I try to find all my festive stencils that I could use. Whereas my purple album, I went really basic with circles, and I think that one I did mostly circles. I used 3 different stencils with circles only. And as you can see, and I know this one's hard because it's at the bottom, but I am overlapping the paste on some of the green as well. Okay. And that's okay. So now flat, I have textured. I have 1, 2, 3. Let's do the small corner here. Make sure I have all the petals. And there's a chunk there. Let's see. And this is where I'm just going back and forth. Where needs a little bit. So you can see the colors are very bright, but I do tone it down in the end with another dry brush on top just to help make it more vintagey. And these patterns are going to be in the background. So I think I am good there. Let me soak this as well and clean my hands. So let's try that. It's always the pace, and this one I have to fix. Has a, so I'm just using my pick tool just to fix this corner here because of that binder hole. You want your ring to squeeze through after. Just fixing it, altering this petal a little bit. Then I think let that air dry. I want to see if I have, everything seems to be December. Let's see what I can use for words, for a title for this. One of my albums already did December Days because I took the Annette class, so I named that one December Days. Let me see if I have a rub-on that I can stick for title. Finding. Going to use, I have a stamp here that says believe in the magic. Sorry, not stamp, rub on. So I'll get this ready, but I won't use it just yet. I need this to dry. Does anyone have any questions? This will take a while to dry. I find this is the hard part, is using stencils.
The fern color that you used, which is stunning.
It's a
Are you
nice
guys-
green.
You
I-
guys don't have any in the shop right now. Do you know if you've got another order in?
I have to ask Sherry, I think it was requested. I will follow up again with her tomorrow. It's the one color we can't keep in the store because it's a really nice green. I
Yeah,
had
it's
another
gorgeous.
one and it was too bright, but this has that nice vintagey green, like the olivey green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check with her tomorrow when we're back
Thanks.
in.
I like all the different things that you're using because then it doesn't make us feel guilty after hoarding all this stuff for years.
Right? Well, and then that's the thing. So when I did my first wine, so I have to say, when you do your first wine, it's going to be intimidating because I didn't know what to do. I'm not a mixed media person, but it's watching all the videos. I'm like, oh, you can use this, you could use this. So I grabbed whatever I can. And of course I had to make it purple. So I used the TCW eggplant, the purple paste, and I just started building. So then if you look at your color theory, what works with purples, I know purple and white and silver work. So those were the 3 colors I chose. As you see, I did another Christmas. I'll show these in the end, but I really based it on one color and I found 2 other colors to go with it. And I think it's the easiest way. And then you bring in other materials. So like this, I did the red, the green, and I brought the blue because I'm matching it to our paper line with that whole holiday wishes paper line. But it's the holiday, so I am going to use a green spray. I'm going to use the gold spray and spray this as well, just so it has that gold tint. So I'm just waiting for this to dry, or the gold spray will look really mucky. But the nice thing is that you can use anything. So yes, I use all holiday stencils, but using just random geometric shapes would be nice also. Or using, if you love scenery. So one of my, maybe while this is drying, I can pull that out. Let me just move this aside. So one of them I did, and this is the one that I used, what's it called? A napkin. Was I found my birch tree. So this one I created a scene. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me bring closer. So I took my birch tree stencil and I did the back. So what instead of using white gesso for this, I painted it black. So this is a brown espresso planner. I gessoed it with black, and then I did my birch tree in white with a little bit of, what color? Oh, I used, this color, frayed burlap. And that's how I found out that the sealant, so the varnish, doesn't work well with the distress ink. Because after I did that nice grayish, like that birch tree color, and then I put that sealant, everything smudged. I can only see all this like gray all over the place. So what I did was I still sealed it so I can have that protection. And then I went on top with, I dry brushed white acrylic. So now, and then it was fine. So I just used birch tree stencil. It was a 2-layer stencil. I did my background and then I spritzed it with gold. So the gold spray. And then and then these are napkins. So that's that Walmart napkin I use. So the one thing about sticking the napkin down was you need a medium. So any type of glue. So the collage medium works well with it. And with the collage medium, that is also, it will smear the colors. So I found that once I had to put the collage medium around the napkin, all that frayed burlap started smudging. And then my trees looked like it was like a bronzy, like brown color. So I took a wet nap and I really wiped it down to see that green shade again. It was a really difficult one, but I learned that, you know, what works and what doesn't work. And then my deers were rub-ons, and the Let It Snow was also a rub-on, but I created this scene here. So I did try that napkin. So I just used a collage medium. It's like I used the matte. I didn't use the gloss. I put a layer of collage medium. I stuck the napkin down, but when you stick your napkin down, make sure you do one side first and slowly push it down and go to the bottom, because I don't know if you can see here. I just plopped it down. My napkin started wrinkling. So here I have this raised look. It's okay, but there is a little wrinkling effect there, and the tree here as well. So I suggest going slowly, put one of the top or bottom down first and just push it down lightly. And then I used a paintbrush and put more collage medium on top to seal it. Don't do that, or do it really slowly, because the napkin is so thin. When you do that, it starts breaking. So my tire started breaking. So I had to peel the whole thing off and stick another one on, sponge it. I found just lightly sponging the collage medium on top, it protects your napkin from tearing. So, but it turned out, I'm really happy with the look. And after doing that, I added some white acrylic paint and I just sponged it for the snow around the car. Well, around the truck, I mean, and around the bottoms of the birch tree to make it look like it was one piece. So I learned a lot. So, but I had to try the napkin, so at least I can come to you and say, okay, this is what don't do. And then, so let's see if this is done, and then I'll show you the other two albums I made. I think this one, which is like the touch test, so that one's fine. The worst thing is it not being dried, and then you stick something on top, and then it goes bad. So I think that is okay. Let's do the light one. That's okay. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. Don't think I need the red anymore. Let's toss that. And the thing is to clean, or the paste will kill your paintbrushes. Oh, there, I think it killed my palette knife.
And you just used regular distress re-inker, correct?
Yes, I use the regular. I really wanted that intense color. So I talked to Marcy, who loves mixed media too. And then she was saying that the distress one, so you get that nice pure color. If you use the oxide, not saying you can't, you'll have that chalky look to it. So I stayed with the distress. So now I need to move things because this gold spray does spray. Let me shake it up. So we brought in this, I think it was used for Maker Mania. It's this glossy spray gilt, has really intense gold color, which is really nice. But it does spray a lot. So let's make sure my surface is. Okay. Don't mind me, I'm going to spray in the garbage first and make sure it's not clogged. Okay, I'm gonna do it high because I'm gonna get, knowing me, whoops, and I'm getting it on my phone. Right, and then you'll see, why is these gold things? So depending on how much gold you want, I'm scared to put too much because then I might not like it. Hold on. And then what I do to soften that and soften the colors, I am going to brush it on top again with my blue to get that nice vintage look to it.
Have you tried mixing alcohol ink with any of the pastes?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the results will do with alcohol ink.
That's a good question. I was just going to ask that as
Yeah.
well.
I used to when I was doing multimedia projects, but it wasn't like this where you were going to be touching it all the time. It was more of a canvas thing.
Yeah. I wonder if you can seal that and protect it, right? Because that would be cool. That nice, like, you know, alcohol effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how it will take on this kind of canvas, because alcohol inks like that Yupo paper. So I wonder how that would look on a different surface. That's the fun of trying. And then if you don't like it, you put gesso on top. So I'm going to dry brush a little bit on top just to bring in that blue again. And this is different. This canvas this blank canvas that I'm working on, the surface is very different. So it really sucked in this gold. So when I show you my other sample where I did similar techniques, the gold sat on the top. And you can, it was more shiny than this one. This one actually went all the way through the canvas.
Oh.
It's a different material when I was, if you feel it, because what did I do? The other one I think is that vegan leather. So it has that different texture to it. And this one felt like a canvas. I'm just dry brushing again because I really want that vintage look, and I'm pulling in that blue. And then, and the thing is, the paint always gets stuck on the other raised part. So I'm going to, makeup sponges has been my best friend. It just takes away some of the paint that gets stuck in those grooves of your stenciling. So this is not necessary, but I find when I was using the bright colored paste, it just made it too bright for me, for my liking, especially what I'm using it for. So I really wanted that nice vintagey color. So let's see. So going back and forth, just toning down my colors. Now it looks like I have like a napkin here. Okay, let's clean this up. These holes are, they should include the inserts that come out of the holes when they give you, when they sell this, so then you could plug it back in when you're crafting on it. Then it protects it, or you get this chunk. Okay, let's see what there is. Oops, wrong one. Good thing I washed that, or that would have been a mess. Take my sponge and I'm just doing, oops. I'm using a makeup sponge and just doing some sponging so I get that textured on it. And then I can put in areas that I want to soften the colors. And it gets me erasing what I don't want. So then what I did was I put a little bit of wax to get that gold to shine. Let me pour, actually, let's do it here. I'm just using everything I had at home. So I had the wax, and you could use your finger, but what I liked about it was using the sponge and then sponging it on your surface. And it looked like you had these little flakes of gold, depending on the color. So this one was like gold shining through.
Which wax did you use, Darlene?
This one is Gilded Touch by Cosmic Shimmer, and it's a tarnished gold one. So it's the darkest of the three that we have. They have a pale one, I think I have the pale one here. Is this the pale one? Enchanted Gold. It's more yellowy but softer. This was the darker one, which I found worked really nice.
Wonder if you could use the Tim Holtz Foundry wax too, because it's got
Yeah.
like that.
Yes, you can.
intuition to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any waxes, you could do the same thing. You could use your finger or your sponge. But I found when I used my finger, I was getting clumps in one random spot. I couldn't spread it properly. But with the sponge, I was able to get more of equal spacing. Well, better distribution of where I wanted it to show up. I'm just putting in random spots just to bring in.
This would make a nice pattern for 49 and Market's next paper line.
And an album to go with it. There you
Yeah.
go.
It'd
Yeah,
be
you can pitch-
gorgeous.
Yeah, you should pitch it.
Right? Here, sell this. But I have to say, it was kind of fun because you can personalize it to what you want. And that's all I've been doing the whole weekend was making different ones. So now not all, but some of my TNs that I had on the shelf now has a nice color. It's not that like espresso or black or, and I was telling Matt because you could tell which colors are popular when it comes to planners and which one stays on the shelf. And I'm like, well, now you can decorate all of them. It doesn't matter what color you get.
That's right.
Yeah. And then there was a lady who wanted a particular color. And then I was like, unfortunately, we ran out. So I think we had desert sand left, but she's like, I don't like it. I'm like, you can decorate. She's like, I can. And I'm like, yeah. So then she ended up getting it because you can really alter it.
Right.
So now I know. I used to stay with black or brown. And I'm like, oh, I can just save those for people and get desert sand because that seems to be the color no one wants. And just change it up. I think I'm okay here. Maybe a little bit on this side. So
I had
almost
an
done.
idea about your holes.
Yeah. What's your
Play-Doh.
idea?
Put Play-Doh in and you can push
Ooh.
it to level it.
That's
And then just
right.
push it back out.
And push it back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you leave it to harden, then you can save it for your next ones.
There you go.
Right,
See,
because I
amazingly
think-
brilliant you are.
Well, you started it. But the thing is, those holes are the same holes as your sidekick. So you can actually save them and use them interchangeable. See, we have to patent that there, Jan. Trademark it. Okay, I think I am happy with that. That way I have a hint of blue on the lighting.
Silly putty maybe work for that and wouldn't have any color in it.
With Silly Putty, it turns really sticky. Play-Doh, I think, depending on how Play-Doh, I think if you just use the Play-Doh brand, it won't stick to anything. But I think with Silly Putty, it might stick to the canvas.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. I have to see. Oh, I think I need there. Checking with my lighting to see if I need random spots, but yeah, just sponging around, softening the colors. It's okay. And then I think what I'll do with my strap, I just might, it's really hard to stencil this. So what I've been doing is just putting some wax on it and bringing out the colors. So might do that here too. Just bring some of that gold. Like find,
Have you done the inside of any of them as well?
no, I haven't.
Okay. I just wondered, like,
I-
I mean, obviously you'd have to do it at a separate time or something, but
Yes, you would, because you want it to dry, right? But I know, I think someone did post that they did it in the inside because they got paint on the backside and they wanted to cover it up. But then that's, yeah, you just have to be very, well, I guess if you work in the front first and then sorry, in the inside first and then work on the front after.
Hmm,
So that way you don't mess up your front cover.
right.
Yeah, I haven't been brave to do the inside yet. But here I am just inking this so at least the color palette will match. And then maybe just bring in some of the blue. There. So here, just bringing in, because the one thing I forgot was to decorate this part. You get so caught up on the album, and then when you're done, you put everything away, you're like, oh, forgot this. So let this dry. Made a mess here. Clean that. And then one thing I want to do, I think it's pretty dry, is let's put my words here. So it has stars. I'm going to move that star. And I'm going to put it right here, this space right here. So I like to put titles on my planners, and I'll probably write in the year after. They need to, well, I guess I could get my stamp set and then stamp out the year. Okay, missing my rub-on tool. Okay, let's see if this works. So just pushing the words down. These rub-ons have become my best friend.
Retired Army major who says he had seen a life worth of violence already in Iraq and Afghanistan, only to confront again.
And then let's lift that up. Oh, I forgot the stars at the top. It blended in that I didn't see it. Let's see. Oops, I missed one star right here. Ah, there you go.
So pretty.
Oh, thank you. So you could leave it like this, but I did put a seal on. I think the only one I didn't put a seal was on this one because it was my first one and I really had to investigate and see what I could put on top so it doesn't crack. So all the other ones I did put a seal, but you could leave it like this. But with all that work, you probably want to protect it and make sure it's going to last. I'm just making sure nothing will smudge.
Can you use the matte acrylic gel as a seal?
Yeah, I think you could.
Just wondering.
I would, yeah, check the directions. Like this one actually does say that it's to seal products. So it doesn't, like, if you come into like water or anything, it won't damage it.
Okay.
So it's what I use, but there's I think you would be able to find other things. And the one thing I like about this one is that it doesn't have that yellowing effect when it dries. So it stays nice and clear.
Mhm.
So taking my brush, oops, didn't do that. Wasn't smart. Thank goodness I looked. You want to just open this part. And because it's a seal, it is very liquidy. And just brush a thin layer on top. This one, I just leave it to dry.
What kind of sealant are you using?
This is a Duraclear matte varnish.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little
And-
varnish. The matte is nice because then it doesn't, it will still look the same when it dries. I know they do have a glossy version.
And can you tell me what you used gesso on your cover? I missed the beginning. Did you use just white gesso?
Yeah, so for this one that I'm doing tonight, I use the white gesso. The
No, I have
album
an-
with the birch tree, I use the black gesso. Those
Okay, I
are the
have an-
two colors I know that gesso comes in, but I just found out they have a clear one too.
Right. I have an orange planner. Do you think I should put black on to cover it?
Depending on what your scene is, it will work either way. So if you
Yep.
do black, it's nice because you don't need so many layers. I found when I covered this is the black planner. I did have to put 2 layers of white so the black
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
show. Whereas this album here was the espresso, and I only had to put the black coat once because it was so thick and because it was already dark. So the nice thing is you can change the colors of your albums if you don't like it. Oh, now where did I? Bottom. So I'm making sure. So you'll see that it's glossy, but when it dries, you don't see that gloss, but it's a good way to know where you missed. And this I found was really good if you're using rub-ons because it makes sure your rub-ons don't crack. Especially if you have rub-ons right where your spine is, which I did in one of mine, and it started to crack.
Do you have that product in the store?
This varnish, yes, we do. It's the one Chris asked to bring in for her art journal class. Yeah, so it's a good sealer. It does have a smell to it, so make sure that you have well ventilation. It has this smell to it, well, like any varnish does. But I think make sure I got. I think I got everywhere. And then it just needs to dry. I feel like it's too dark here. What happened? So let's say you do the varnish and you still want to add things, you can still put paint on top of it, which is nice. So I went to do some research because after I did this and the distress ink did smear, I Googled search and see if went and saw and check to see if I could repaint on it or if it will damage it. And it says you can paint on top of the varnish, which is what I did. And I just left, I just put the paint on top and then I let it dry and that was it. So I think this is good to go. Let me clean off my space here while this dries. Oh, you know what I did? See, I forgot. I need to put varnish on this buddy. Let's see. So remember not to forget this little thing because I keep forgetting. So thank goodness it's a little piece. But, so make sure. So I'm putting varnish all over and let it dry. Okay. Let me soak my, so let me move this to the side to let it dry and I'll show you some of the other projects I did. Big mess. So as I said, this was the first one I did. It was a black sidekick. For this particular one, I did the base, so the primer, the gesso. I added stenciling and stamping. So I did the stamp first because you always want to do the flat things first before you put the raised things. So I did random stamping through the back and the front. And then I did some stenciling. With this particular one, I did 3 stencils. I went from a small, a medium, and then to a big one. So I had the circles, 2 different circles, and then I did the hearts in the in the white pearl, and I did the same thing at the back. And then I dry brushed it with, well, I did wax and I went heavy handed. So you can see that it's dark in some spots. So what I did to lighten that up was I mixed in the purple paste with the white paste, and then I just dry brushed it to get this look. The second one I just showed you a second, was this one here. It was a brown album that I used the black gesso, did the same thing. The gesso really does help. You could do your stenciling and then you could do your napkins, but this particular one, I created a scene. All the other ones I did random designs on it. This one I actually created, you know, the snow with the trees, the birch tree. One thing I would have done was maybe add a moon somewhere there, but very happy with this one. The third one I did was taking one of the small art journals that we used to carry. Oops, I have gold everywhere. So this one here, I wanted to try something different. So this one was actually the second album I did after the purple one, and it was to try rub-on. So I wanted to see how rub-ons would work on this this particular album. And then this is where I found out that it started cracking. So before I put the seal in, I was closing it and I saw that the cracks started happening. And this is when I had to investigate and say, okay, how can I stop that from happening? And that's when the sealant, the varnish came to play. So here I sealed it. So yes, those cracks were from prior, but it's still nice, you know, it still has that vintage look. So that varnish does help with it. And then the last album I did was to go with my Annette Green December Days. Similar to what I did tonight, but I took a different colors. So this one does have pages in it. So this is very similar to Night, but this was the brown album. So you can tell the look is very different from the album that we used tonight because of the different surface. So when I did this one, the gold spray actually stayed on top. So you can see those mica parts really showing. Whereas this one, when I sprayed it, it actually soaked into the canvas. So you see that, which is really interesting how the technique is there, but it turns out really different. So here, this is I said it and I can't remember. It's a brown album. I used white gesso for this one. And I did the same thing. I did all the random stamping first. Then I did the stenciling. And then this one, I don't think I added rub-ons. This one I kept, this one I kept really simple. So this one here, the red paste, I used TCW and it was really bright. So you can tell I really softened it up with the white, which I like this was the red and I thought it would go, but it was too bright for me, even if I mixed it in with the white paste. So I still used it, but what I did was I took my makeup sponge and I did white, I sponge painted with white all over in random spots just to soften that red up. But you still see the stenciling. Oh, I do have rub-ons. The green leaves here are the rub-ons, but hard to tell now that everything is layered up. Can't really see it. And then after doing this, I stamped in December Days, and then I put the sealant on top of it to seal everything. So that was the last one I worked on. So that is it, ladies. That's all the crafting I did for these journals. Hopefully that inspires you with the different techniques and what you can do with these planners. There's so much. So play and post it because I would love to see what you do with yours. But even if you have one planner that you want to try before you touch your white one, take it out and play with that one. Alter the colors. There's so much you can do with it. And there's no right or wrong, which is nice. And as I said, if you do a boo-boo and you don't like what it looks like, just take out your gesso and put another layer on top of it. It will just mask it and then you can start all over. So thank you for joining me tonight.
The little album you did, the green one with the rub-ons?
Yeah.
Did you gesso that?
No.
Okay.
So I was trying different ones because I was just doing rub-ons. I did it directly on it. And that's what you can do too, is I think you can directly do it on your planner. But if you're using mediums, the look will be different.
Gotcha.
So ladies, let me just turn off the recording. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Give me 2 seconds.